Hello and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what kind of morning you're having, but I hope that is a good one. Before we even get into introductions and what we're going to talk about, I have to wish all of my Irish brothers and sisters a very happy St. Patrick's Day. Obviously, it's a big day for anyone that is Irish. And you know what? We've heard many times, at least many of my Irish friends have said, on this day, everyone is Irish, and I love that. I love that ideology of everyone just being one group of people celebrating a day. I am going to say, folks, and this is because I'm the popo in me never sleeps. If you are celebrating today as you should, I ask you to think and act responsibly. Meaning, and this is again, sorry, I have to do the whole popo thing before we even get into the show. If you're gonna drink, and a lot of people do drink, be careful with that, and please don't drink and drive. That's it. That's all I'm going to say about it, because I have to. I feel obligated to make that statement because obviously I'm former law enforcement, and I've seen way too many horror stories that I don't want to hear about tomorrow morning when I'm having breakfast with Mrs. Boom. But I'm bummed, obviously, because today is breakfast with Boom. But listen, let's get into the introductions. The spicy one. The man with the best voice in the business, Crispy Bomb, always seems to arrive on the scene when, well, the shit has hit the fan in gaming. Good morning, Crispy Bomb. How you feeling?
Good morning, and my Irish side thanks you, Boom, because happy Irish Day. That's what I call it at this
I
point.
love it. Yes, happy
So,
Irish Day indeed.
so yeah, and definitely, I think we're approaching like ghost pepper spicy at this point. So, habanero just ain't doing it no more. You gotta
Oh my
up
God,
it.
I'm off camera. I forgot. Holy cow. Look, there I am. Hey, everyone. I got my
feel
Atari shirt on. I'm ready to rock and roll. Yeah, I didn't realize I was off camera. Oh my goodness.
but I feel like I'm on an episode of Hot Ones every time I come on here.
Well, I mean, there is a lot going on. I woke up this morning to a ton of DMs. Of course, I'm going to shout everybody out. I got to go into my DMs to shout out a couple of people that constantly and consistently drop information in there. When you wake up in the morning and you see 11 DMs, you know something has happened. I got a call this morning at 8:01 from Everborn Saga and Kay Asante, and we were talking about what was going on. So yeah, this is some big breaking news, folks. Sony might have outplayed themselves. I'm going to read some information that has come the way of MLEX. We have a lot of information. I'm going to be reading verbatim, so we know we obviously get it right. The FTC, folks, falling apart at the seams, as it has been reported by Bloomberg, folks, that the FTC, controlled by Lina Khan, not only saw two representatives of the Republican Party leave, one of which is leaving March 31st, and that is no representation for the Republican Party. But folks, it gets worse because her top attorneys have resigned. I mean, like, are you kidding me? Like, this is what I don't like talking about politics, but it has to do with ABK, and as we know, this frivolous lawsuit that we talked about numerous times is going to be laughed out of court. The judge that is overseeing it right now is steamed at Lina Khan, steamed at Sony for not providing the correct information when asked. It is going to be a bloodbath when this finally gets in front of the judge, and it's going to get thrown out. I don't even think it gets to federal court. I think it gets thrown out very similar to what happened with the Meta lawsuit, that they had to go like this. But let's get into more introductions. Dreadpool, love the image. How you feeling, brother? Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, thank you. I figured today's that special day. My wife is Irish, so we're obviously going to have the standard. But yeah, right now, let's see what's for breakfast, right? We just got some cinnamon sticks per se, and that's all we're
Tasty.
doing. Yeah, it's something tasty, something light. But yeah, we looking forward to today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
We did. And if you want to know what I had for breakfast, besides
Oh,
having
yeah.
a delicious cup of coffee, I had a bagel with a slice of Munster, which was quite tasty. Melted,
Nice.
of course. But listen,
Gotta toast it.
glad to have you here. Of course, happy Irish Day, as it's known, to your wife and her family. Of course, family is the most important thing, and we're happy to be celebrating today. I think it's a big deal for a lot of people. But listen, Web Dave, good morning, brother. How you feeling? Are you ready to rock and roll? Because as our quote unquote money guy, you've been saying from the beginning this deal is going to pass, and it appears that the remedies that have been presented to the EU Commission are only talking about cloud gaming and the commitments Microsoft has made already and is going to make to other cloud providers. You know who was left off that list? Good old Jimmy Boy's PlayStation. And maybe, Dave, just maybe, the quote that was brought to our attention by the champion of justice, Lulu Chang of Activision Blizzard. We don't want a deal. We just want to block your merger. I don't know. That arrogance might have come back to punch him in the face. What do you think, brother? Good morning.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And good morning and welcome everybody. And man, got my Irish shirt on, ready to go. I had 2 eggs over easy for breakfast, nothing else, and that's it.
That's protein, brother. There you go. That's right.
What the doctor says.
Well, listen. Love that you're here, brother. Love that you're a part of this show. And last and no way least, who I would imagine is going to drop the fuzzy spiciness that we know and love. Fuzzy, good morning. Breaking news, literally left, right, and center. What a way to open up a Friday morning's breakfast with Boom. I'm imagining that we're going to have record numbers here because, well, there's a lot to get into. How you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling great and glad to be here with you guys. Man, just between the FTC tripping over its own feet, losing employees and losing cases, and this ABK deal ongoing, and Sony just it's one of those F around and find out type of deals. I think they're on the verge of that right now, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, we actually have a lot to get into. I mean, there's literally so much news to get into. I'm not even sure where to start. I obviously asked the guys this morning. I have been sending story after story after story. I've been trying to put everything together to make it understandable. Well, let's start off with something that was reported yesterday. This is not a surprise, folks. We all thought this was the joke of jokes, but it actually was a thing. Thanks to Post Up, who is on Twitter. I think that if you're not following him or subscribe to his YouTube channel, you're doing it wrong. He is like a Hogue Law, where he is following the whole ABK deal to the dots and the crossing of the T's. He's consistent on putting out incredible large pieces of information. I've had him on the show once. I think I'm going to try and get him back for this week because as the world turns, there's still going to be a lot to talk about. Well, he reported an update for the Microsoft / Activision Blizzard King acquisition, that MLEX, who has been at the forefront of all the reporting on this, that the lawsuit from the quote unquote gamers has been dismissed in federal court, and if they want to continue or attempt to, sue Microsoft and Activision Blizzard for this this deal in favor of PlayStation, they're going to have to redraft their complaint. This comes the way of Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley raised concerns about lack of evidence and numbers, precise argument about them harming the industry. They didn't have the evidence, folks. So that has been thrown out. We did know, and we had learned that Microsoft said to the judge that they would not consider closing this until the end of May, specifically May 22nd. And guess what, folks? We learned today that the EU Commission has postponed their judgment until May 22nd. Wow, what a coinky dink. And on top of that, and that's what we're going to get into right now, we have learned, folks, that the EU Commission has accepted Microsoft's remedies. And guess what? No mention of PlayStation anywhere. Now, again, I want to bring up some. I'm going to bring up some facts live on the air for us, so we can. So again, I'm reading verbatim. Now, this comes the way of Florian Muller. It's FOSS Patents on Twitter. He has recently done an interview with Destin Legary on his YouTube channel. He has been following this case. Again, he is one of the go-to places, at least for me and Double Barrel Gaming, because I trust his opinions and he is sharp as a tack. He says this: according to MLEX, Microsoft's remedy proposal to the EU Commission submitted last night is only about cloud gaming services. No console-related offer to Sony is a part of it. The EC apparently narrowed its concerns to only cloud gaming, leaving consoles off of the table. He goes on to say, folks, Sony has overplayed their hand. Wow. All I got is wow. I'm going to go first to Crispy Bomb on this. Crispy, this is devastating for Jim Ryan's led PlayStation. The EC, the EU Commission, has left console concerns off of their package. I don't know about you, but that says that Sony is effed and indeed might have overplayed their hand here. We know that Microsoft literally just put a press release that they called Sony out. They called Sony to the carpet, as I like to say, and said that their complaints are self-serving. I think that statement that was brought to our attention by Lulu Chang, who of course works for Activision Blizzard, might have done in Jim Ryan, and his arrogance might also have done him in. What are your thoughts on this new report?
I remember Wednesday I was talking about, Jim standing on the hill and it crumbling. Well, it's starting faster than I even thought. This is one of those things, like you look at just the information you have brought, besides what Mueller said. It's interesting. It's something that you say, okay, I do believe, like, so the EC has said cloud gaming, that's all they care about. And I mean, we'll be honest here. We're not saying that Sony's not going to get Call of Duty. We're not saying that. I don't want anybody going out there and taking this out of context. What we're saying is that Microsoft said, okay, well, it doesn't seem like you guys care anymore. Now, the CMA could be a different story. So, they could need that in there. But they already have the deal with Nintendo. I mean, I guess it's just a potato to these regulators, but it's an actual console. I'm sorry, like I've been gaming my whole life. Like you can't.
It's an exercise app. Come on, Crispy. It's an exercise.
You're right. I'm glad you clarified that. Yes, it is an exercise app indeed. Yes.
Yeah, I guess the Kinect must have been the best exercise app you ever seen, huh?
Ooh,
it wasn't a console then. wasn't a peripheral on a console, I guess. This is one of those things where you look at it and you just have to be objective, and the way everything has transpired, and I'd say the past 48 hours says that on May 22nd, this deal is going to be closing. You look at what's going on at the FTC. I mean, they don't have a leg to stand on anymore. I didn't think they had a leg to stand on after the Republicans are said they're leaving. I mean? So it's just you constantly seeing this stuff, and I know people are going to try to spin it their own way, and I get it, but I just look at it as just information, and the information is leading to this deal going through probably slightly easier than Microsoft thought. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more like any other cloud streaming platform is going to get a deal just to, kind of sure everything up and say, you know what, we've already went down. We'll sign with anybody that's doing any type of cloud streaming, and they're going to do that. And then, if the CMA wants the open contract, I would say, for Sony to always be able to sign it, that's the way I would look at it, because Sony's refusals are apparent and they don't seem to want to negotiate. So, there is supposed to be negotiations in this point in time, especially if you're a market leader and, you're looking for something, you really, having such a large piece of the market in those areas don't have a leg to stand on, especially when you make statements like they have. And I think it's just, it's the right thing. I'm fine with everybody getting Call of Duty. I have no problem with that. I mean, some people might be like, oh, but they're buying. No. Okay, they're going to make a ton of money off of it. They're probably going to make the game much better because they're going to probably give it a little more time at some point. And also these devs, might have the option of working on something else as well, which is quite nice. So you look at the unions backing all this stuff. We're just waiting for it to finally be done. And I think we're getting to that point where, like, now I would sit here and be like, I'm 90% on it. So it's going to be an interesting couple months, but it's feeling like we're rolling along, and the steam train's going, and we're going to get there.
Yeah, you made mention of something that I think a lot of people don't understand, might have gone over their head, but I want to discuss it with you for a hot second for context. When you say you're happy that everyone gets Call of Duty, I'm right there with you. I think, again, I don't play Call of Duty online. It's just I don't. I like the single player. That's how I play it. Have I played Call of Duty? Yes. Is it great? It's fantastic, but I'd rather play Halo. That's just me, which, by the way, I hit level 61, and my God, Halo Season 3. Okay, so let me reel it back in. I am coming to you with this question because you said everyone's going to get Call of Duty. There's a more minute aspect that people are overlooking here, Crispy. These deals, these 10-year deals, specifically with the cloud providers, is not just about Call of Duty, okay? It has been confirmed by Microsoft that this includes Xbox games, Bethesda games, and Call of Duty. Think about that for a second. They could have just said, okay, all Call of Duty games are going to be on these cloud streaming. No, they're saying that if you want to stream, Xbox PC, you get everything. You get it all. And I think that what's important to this conversation is that, and I saw people trying to poo-poo this. Like, for instance, the Boosteroid. Well, boom, they only have 4 million. They don't count. I'm sorry, what? 4 million doesn't count because you've never heard of the service? You're ridiculous. That is the kicker. And I think offering this kind of content, and it's a broad stroke. You're talking all Xbox, all Bethesda, and now all of Activision Blizzard. There would be no reason to block the deal unless you didn't want competition. Like, we just want it laser focused to Sony. Sony is the only one that can have exclusives. Sony's the only one that can have marketing deals. Sony could be the only one that's in first place. What are your thoughts?
Isn't it funny how, they do things that are actually logical, and they say, okay, we have this cloud streaming market that we really haven't, not necessarily not had the games on there, but not had all of our Xbox games on there. And you open up this new market that, they do have to purchase the game. I don't know if people realize that. Like,
yes,
in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Yeah. So, you're opening up a new market without going to where, Sony is. You know what I mean? Like, you're not releasing on Sony. You're already doing something with Call of Duty that's incredible by promising Nintendo it, which Nintendo hasn't had it. I don't even remember. It's almost been 15 years, I'd say.
I think the last, again, I'll confirm it. I'll confirm it in a second, Crispy. I think the last Call of Duty game was on the Wii U.
Yeah. 2011 or something.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
So it's been a few years, been at least 10. We'll say
Yeah.
that. So you look at that, and I think that's it, and that's exciting because people haven't had it in so long over there. It might actually help Nintendo, it might boost their sales a little bit. You never know. What I mean? Having that handheld there, could be helpful. And especially Call of Duty. It's going to hit its peak at some point unless you add new markets to it. And I think that's what they're doing. And it's interesting that they don't really care about the console as far as the regulators in the EU are concerned at this point. So it's going to be a domino effect. And I think it's very important that people understand that Xbox is really trying to get out in the market, and really start this push of saying some of these IPs are worth being played by more people than just people that play on Xbox. And I mean, I think that's going to be important as we go along.
I agree. Listen, let's. I want to bring up. I want to go to Dave on this next. Dave, I have a document in front of me. This was written by Itis on Reddit. Obviously, Itis has been a big part of in giving us information, especially in a one big format. And he put out something 54 minutes ago, or at least maybe it's a little bit longer now. Maybe it was earlier this morning. And this is the breakdown, Dave, of the report from MLEX. Okay, I put this in the DM, so folks, I'm going to read it verbatim. There's a bit to read here, so just bear with me. But I think that providing this kind of information that is not normally seen on a lot of shows is why I do all this extra work, because I want everyone to be educated. I'm going to give you my opinion, sure, but I want to read verbatim from the professionals that are covering this. Again, so this was reported by MLEX. This was posted by Idas, IDAS. He is verified on Reddit. This is what he had to say, folks. Microsoft committed to the EU regulators last night to make Activision Blizzard's catalog of games, including Call of Duty, available to rival cloud gaming services, according to MLEX. The offer does not include concessions to ease EU concerns over how the takeover might impact Sony's PlayStation or Google's PC operating system, indicating that the EC has narrowed its objections to the deal to focus solely on cloud gaming. The 10-year Remedy proposal follows the template of recent deals announced by Microsoft with cloud gaming providers NVIDIA, Boosteroid, and Ubitus. The EC, or the EU Commission, is consulting market players on Microsoft's cloud gaming offer, and now it has until May 22nd to issue its final decision. And he goes on to say this, folks. So, the EC didn't drop the cloud gaming concerns. In fact, those are the main ones right now. That's very interesting, because then the CMA and the EC are more aligned than we thought regarding the theories of harm. The main difference would be that the CMA is also concerned about the console market. It looks like both regulators have dropped the concerns about PC OS, meaning Google, because Google doesn't have a leg up in this fight. The timing between the CMA and the EC is, again, different. Now the CMA could be a few weeks ahead. In any case, if the CMA goes first, April 26th is still the more relevant date. I have a strong suspicion that the CMA and the EU Commission are aligned. I could be 100% wrong here. I think ultimately Jim Ryan's self-serving complaint, being the market leader, and in that region, like I said, folks, the numbers don't lie. Some people try to make it lie, like some media people yesterday that I had to call to the carpet, that we're using sales of physical games versus digital games, but that's a horse of another color. 400% increase year over year in the month of February for PlayStation 5 for the EU Commission. And in the UK, like we discussed last week, 316% year-over-year increase for PlayStation, further pushing the market leader higher on the list and Xbox lower. Hearing that the EC still has concerns for cloud gaming, but that the concessions or the remedies have been pushed forth, where Microsoft has already confirmed, not only to us, the public, they're not done making deals with cloud services. That is going to continue in the weeks to come. What are your thoughts on all this information, Dave?
Well, I definitely agree that the information that was dropped, it really seems to be like you were saying at first, that they're focusing now on just the one aspect, and the one aspect seems to be the only thing that they're really worried about. But I think really seems to be the only place that they feel like they have a foothold of something that they can actually argue or address, because everything else really is above mustard for sure. And a lot of people disagree with that. This deal's going through 100%, 100% going through this year, sooner than later. The whoever gets to go first, I think, is going to be they just want to have something to hold on to and something to be a moniker. That's why Microsoft is like, you get a deal, you get a deal, you get a deal. It's like being on Oprah. Everybody in the room gets a deal. Check under your seat. Let's see what package you have. And even though Sony wasn't specifically listed, I really do feel that even if they don't come to the table, but everything gets passed, that Microsoft at that time will say, okay, look, here's what we offered everybody else. If you'd like to take this, you can have it. They're still going to offer it up. 2 reasons. One, because they still want to be perceived, even though it's business, they still want to be perceived as the good guy. Okay? And you understand that. They want to make sure that they are, in the market doing the quote unquote the right thing. Now, obviously, Sony doesn't want the deal to pass because Sony wants to have the marketing advantage forever. That's the only way they would probably agree to anything, is if Microsoft was just like bent over and said, okay, for the next 10 years, it's exclusive to PlayStation for this and this and this, and you get exclusive marketing rights, and we just own the game and make the money. But Microsoft doesn't want to do that, or keep it off Game Pass. But Microsoft is clearly, they know what to do. They know what they're doing. They want to grow Game Pass. It's clear that this is the main objective for this deal. Obviously, that there's going to be the mobile and everything else that's going with that. But like you said, we believe, and I agree with you, that mobile is actually going to be a part of Game Pass at some point, and it's going to be a big part, because it's actually, it can be the catalyst that really does bring them closer to closing the gap down between the market leaders in a big way. I feel that this is going to happen, and the dates that are up there are really, they're the April one. That's just a few weeks away, and I think we're really going to find out some things then. And between now and then, there's going to be more and more revelations every day. I mean, what's this about? Superman? What? We'll get into that.
Yeah,
sure.
you know what? I was looking into
crazy.
that, and a lot of people seem to think that Microsoft's lawyers got it wrong, which wouldn't surprise me, because they're lawyers. I don't think they play games.
Yeah, exactly.
They talked about a Superman exclusive that was found out in the FTC documents, but I think what they meant was Spider-Man, which is pretty bad.
Exactly.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Exactly.
But
yeah, as long as they don't have Wonder Woman, and we get that.
Well, Wonder Woman is being made, but I don't think that's going to be an exclusive. So if they did get, let's hypothetically, if they did get Superman as an exclusive, I would be definitely raising the Rock's eyebrow, if you will, because I'm
Yeah.
like at this point, Spider-Man and Superman as Sony exclusives, yeah, there's a problem. But I like what you're putting down. I think everyone has knocked it out of the park so far. Dreadpool, let's get your hot take on this. You know, again, a lot of information has come in. We are learning left, right, and center that the EU Commission seemed to have moved its concern or its focus to solely on cloud gaming. Now, cloud gaming was one of the top proponents or the top question marks for the deal going through. Microsoft has already said and has signed some big deals. I would imagine that the deals will continue. They have already promised or put out there to the ether, if you will, that they are going to continue to sign these cloud gaming deals, allowing for all of Xbox, Bethesda, and Activision Blizzard content to be played on other platforms. Like Crispy did point out there, and I'm glad he did clarify it. It's not for the price of free. You must own the game. And then, of course, as owning the game, they will allow you to play the game any way or anywhere you want. Now, obviously, NVIDIA, that's a big one. That's a really big one. As a matter of fact, Dread, NVIDIA, they didn't oppose the deal. They had concerns about the deal. I guess, well, makes sense. They didn't want to be left at the dance without a date. Microsoft says, yes, I'll take you as my date. And they say, yes, we're pulling our complaint. We are for the deal. And one of the most interesting things, as you're starting to see things line up, it was reported earlier this week, Dread, that of the 9 participants that were polled or questioned regarding the Activision Blizzard King merger, and let's just clarify, let's break it down for you. Of the 9, there were 3 that you push off to the side. Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard, of course, and Sony. The other 6 participants, Dread, all are 100% for the deal. In fact, one of those participants actually told the CMA that this deal would allow for a better competition against Sony. They made mention of that. And now we hear that the EC, who were privy to Jim Ryan's comments just 2 weeks ago about, again, I will reiterate, I don't care about a new Call of Duty deal. I only care about blocking your merger. I think, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, that statement was going to reign supreme and potentially Jim Ryan's arrogance, market lead. That's what happens when you're the market leader. Everyone comes to you. You move the head of the snake how you want to move it. Might have bit him in the ass. And apparently the EU Commission, I guess, agreed with me or has agreed that the concern for Sony shouldn't be there anyway because they're going to have the content, and they've moved their only concern to cloud. What do you think about all of this breaking news this week?
Well, let's just keep pushing the goal fences, right? We got to move them over and move them this way and move them that way. Anything we can do to block this thing, right? Anything that we can do that we're a victim again. And I think that the funny part is that cloud is a reasonable concern for multi avenues if you look at it, because who's leading it and who started it, right? Sony started it with theirs and they just haven't supported it. Now they are, but they're far behind. Microsoft just said, Xbox, but still they're the leaders in software, and cloud gaming is software. If you think about it, yeah, it's hardware, but to do all this stuff, it's a lot of software involved for the routing, for the reduction of lag. So when it comes to that, yeah, who do you think is going to be number one? It's going to be someone like Microsoft. So Xbox having that as a leg up, it is concerning for everybody, But at the same time, you look at it and you're like, they're kind of giving out like the ability for other companies to be able to, use their service, even though you have to own the game. Because NVIDIA is a prime example. They got busted. That's why they had some concerns. Because if you think about it, way back when they first launched, Steam came back and said, no, you can't do this. And they pretty much almost shut them all down. Because even though you own the game, you weren't allowed to stream their games that you own on Steam through NVIDIA's streaming service. You weren't allowed to use that. Obviously, game developers came back and made addendums to their games so that way they could be streamed elsewhere. And I'm sure this is probably one of those things that NVIDIA had questions of. Am I going to be screwed over again if I push this out? It's nice to see that the clarification was there that as long as you own the game, you can stream it on that service. They got no issues. All right, cool. So it's evident that that's why they pulled back from their concerns. They got their answer. It sounds a little like Stadia, right? As long as you own your game, you can stream it. But Stadia didn't have that foresight to give it to you wherever you owned it. So you could play wherever. If you bought it through Stadia, to go here and still be able to play the game a certain way. They should have done something like that, and they probably would have been in a better state. So obviously, Microsoft and Xbox has learned from Stadia's mistakes. They've learned from Steam and NVIDIA's mistakes where they had their interactions, and that's the main thing is we forget that these companies are just money hungry corporations, but behind it there are humans behind there. That actually care and want the best, not just for their company but for their customers, because it's their name. When I do stuff, it's what's best for myself, what's best for the customer, and what's best for my company. You got to make all three align. And I think this is what they've learned and they're trying to do. And, good faith is always something to look forward to.
You say good faith, and I chuckle because Microsoft has been completely forthcoming and honest and earnest through this whole thing, where Sony and specifically Jim Ryan have done nothing but, fabricate, lie, limp in the court with the crutch and the head bandage and said, oh, that's the bully over there, when they have been the industry bully for 2 decades. It is. I'm glad and I hope that we continue to see people call Sony out on their shit. I'm sorry. I don't mean to curse, folks, but it is what it is. I'm just really tired of Sony just being allowed to do what they do unchecked. And that's what has been going on. And I'm glad that the EC has seen it. I would imagine that at some point the CMA is going to see it. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think it's going to matter with the FTC. And we're going to get into what's going on there. I mean, talk about a clown show, ladies and gentlemen. It is just ridiculous at this point how bad the FTC is being run. But good points all around, Dredd. I think you're onto something. But continue.
Yeah, I was going to say, what have I been saying about Sony this whole time? Deceptive practices. And this is where Xbox is trying to stay away from. They're being, as you said, forthright and as transparent as they can. How many times have we asked for companies to be transparent? And we want to know everything. We want to know all the ins and outs, the intricacies, everything in the back that we normally don't know. And they've done well in protecting other companies. You remember Scalebound? Oh yeah, they took the hit, right? They took the hit. They didn't admit who the fault truly landed on, but they took the hit. And you got to look at that and say, okay, well, that's very honorable of them to just say, look, we're not doing Scalebound no more. It's just not working out. And come to find out that we paid all this money, and these guys didn't put the money into our game that we paid for. And they could have done that. They could have I would have blasted them, but they didn't. And that's the thing, that, and they need to look at all the different aspects. And I understand, the CMA and the FTC have a lot that they have to worry about. And if they're concerned about cloud gaming, I mean, who's ever heard of, what was it, Blastoid?
Boosteroid.
Yeah,
Boosteroid, right?
Blasteroid. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I've been gaming since '78, folks. I've never heard of them.
I've never heard of them. I mean, they what was it, 2017 or 2019 that they came up?
Well,
So,
they're Ukrainian based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, all the more power to them because they found another issue, and they're trying to resolve it. Now, granted, 10 years from now, with a whole new crew of people that are in the executive positions, we never know what's going to happen, right? But at least for the next 10 years, this is the situation. And on top of that, it's also what these companies, just like Nintendo, what they want to buy and put into their service. Just because they have a contract doesn't mean that they're going to want to put all of the Call of Duties on their service. They may just want these like a certain specific ones, maybe just the new ones. They don't want to do anything else. They don't want to bring anything else in, or maybe they do, and they want to renegotiate that contract to bring in those other ones, the old ones from the past that we're, as Xbox fans, are expecting to be brought into Game Pass. So it's just it's nice to see that this is going on, and it's finally going to be over, because I know a lot of people are getting tired of talking about it, but this is also great news. It's nice to know that what we see, it seems like they're finally opening their eyes, and they're starting to see the same issues that Sony has been deceptive about, and yet again moving goalposts.
I agree. Listen, the goalposts have been moved since this deal was announced. Sony has been opposed to the deal. At this point, it's ridiculous. Like I said, for me personally, as someone that has covered this literally since it was announced, I don't get bored talking about it, because I find it incredibly fascinating. This is the biggest thing that happened to gaming. It will probably be the biggest thing to happen to gaming for potentially the next 2 decades. I don't think you're ever going to see anything as big as this. I certainly don't see Microsoft taking on, I should say, another publisher. I think they're going to go smaller afterwards, and sew up the Asobos of the world and things of that nature, Avalanche Studios and things of that. Just bring them on in. I'd love to see them get IO Interactive, bring them into the fold. We'll see in time. We got to get past this right now. But
yeah, I mean, think about this, right? For those that are old school, I know a lot of the younger kids really don't understand what the arcades were. But I mean,
shame on that. It's a shame.
Other than certain games, most games you can go to any arcade and they would be there. Didn't matter where it was. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, certain driving games like Pole Position. Those are always there. It didn't matter, and it didn't hurt anybody that they were everywhere. And this is the same situation. It doesn't hurt anybody that they're everywhere. It just helps get it out there. It helps more people get access to these games, whether it's through the cloud or any other means.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a fantastic point, right? A really solid point. That's certainly a way to close it out for sure. But I want to bring in Fuzzy Belvedere into the conversation. Fuzzy, this is breaking news. This is not surprising, to be honest with you. Hearing that the EU Commission is laser focused specifically right now, as of last night, as of the remedies proposed by Microsoft, are clearly and straightforward about cloud gaming. Right now, here's the thing: there's a reason why they're signing cloud deal left, right, and center. And I would imagine that Monday morning, before we go live on the new episode of the Xbox Lunch Break Special, Phil Spencer or Satya Nadella or Brad Smith or somebody's going to get out there and say, hey, we just signed another deal. And then on Tuesday and on Wednesday and maybe even on Friday of next week, you're going to start seeing them line up. And at some point, Fuzzy, if the only concern was cloud and not console, because look, I have some numbers in front of me, and this comes the way of Microsoft. They presented this to all of the bodies, the governing bodies, the CMA, the EU Commission, and this is what they had to say: the gaming industry at a glance. The total annual global gaming market in 2022 was valued at $196.8 billion. This comes the way of Newzoo, which is a numbers website. Mobile accounted for $103.5 billion, and that was led by Tencent, who had $32.5 billion. Apple was in second place at $14.8 billion, and Alphabet, or Google, was in third place at $12.4 billion. And according to the document that I have in front of me, these are the top three leaders by revenue. Console equated for $52.9 billion. PC equated for $38.1 billion. And guess what? Cloud was on the list as well. And it only, it barely scratches the surface. And I say barely because it's still billions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Cloud generated $2.3 billion. So if you look at everything else, it's pales in comparison. Yeah. But according to the document here, in 2022, which is not this year, obviously, was last year, Sony held 80% of the European Economic Area, or the EEA, market share compared to Xbox's 20%. Now, this is confirmed by numerous documents. Sony's PlayStation currently has 5 times more exclusive titles than Xbox. And the number for that, folks, if you're wondering, is 286 for PlayStation, 59 for Xbox. 58 titles are available on the PlayStation right now. But guess how many, just how many PlayStation games would you think are available right now on the Xbox? 2, according to the document. And finally, Microsoft brought Minecraft to more platforms since we acquired Mojang in 2024. Minecraft Legends will be cross-platform when it launches in April. These are damning numbers. Mm-hmm. These are facts. These are numbers. I have the document in front of me to prove it. This screams market leader for Sony. This screams why Microsoft wants to get into mobile, because they don't even have a thumbprint in it right now. Now, Sony doesn't either. They did buy a company that's going to help them start building mobile stuff, and that makes sense because mobile makes a lot of money and everybody wants to make money. But when you pull this back, Fuzzy, and you look at the information that was provided to us by MLEX as per usual, I think that and I'll say it, I'm not going to curse, folks, but I'll say I think PlayStation is effed. Because if they're moved, if console concern has been moved out of the way for the EC, regardless of what has been put out by the CMA, at some point they're going to align. I mean, they're in the same regions. Yes, they're split because of what happened with Brexit. Mm-hmm. But they still have to align to some extent. It can't be one says yes, one says no. It would not make any sense. I think the CMA, I've said this before and I'll say it again, the CMA says no, it's corruption. I'm sorry, it's corruption at its core. But let's just talk about the EU Commission. Mm-hmm. This is damning for Sony. What are your thoughts?
Oh, it's definitely going to be a hard argument for Sony moving forward if this is solely moving towards the cloud aspect. I think the big thing now is it's almost like Google gave up just a little too soon, because imagine if Stadia was around, they would probably have a 10-year deal. And if Monday, the next deal that's announced is Luna, it's game over for anything relating to Sony. Not in the sense that Sony's going to go out of business or anything like that, but all of their, I guess, objections across these regulatory bodies will be basically null and void at that point, because probably the elephant in the room that if Microsoft signs the deal with and shows that they're willing to work with other or play nice with others, it would be Amazon Luna. But that one's a little touch and go. But like I said, if Stadia was still around, they would probably have a 10-year deal as well. And for those that are like, oh, who's Boosteroid? They only have 4 million. Yeah, 4 million is great, because remember how many PlayStation Now had? I think they were like maxed out at 2 million. So yeah, they did better than PlayStation Now did. So, but all of those things aside, looking at the big picture, the EU sees cloud as being that next potential thing. Like, Blockbuster was that famous video store that didn't see Netflix coming, and they laughed at Netflix when they were like, "Oh, buy us." No thanks. And then they were like, "Oh crap, we got to hurry up and do a streaming service and whatnot to kind of compete." This is going to be the next move forward. Whether we, as gaming enthusiasts, like it or not, cloud is going to be a bigger and bigger piece, especially as technology and hardware and infrastructure improve. Because look at mobile. Like, mobile is so much larger than console, but yet people make fun of mobile. But it's like, a lot of people have phones. A lot of people like to do busy
Dude,
stuff
I
as
play
far as gaming
mobile
on their phone.
every day.
Yeah. Like, if you're at the grocery store waiting in line, or at your, the dealership waiting for your car to get serviced, or you're at the doctor's office waiting to be called, any of those things, if you have your phone, you're probably gaming. Now, if you have a good connection, or if they have Wi-Fi at the office, you're probably, using something like xCloud or something along those lines, or you might be doing like a remote play type of deal. But mobile gaming in general is going to always be huge. And that's kind of where Microsoft wants to like tip the scales and dip their toe into that field. Because look at Apple. They made as much as Microsoft's Xbox division did with just doing their mobile gaming. Now, they don't make any hardware as far as a console. They just make a phone that has an app store, and they're already making 14 plus billion a year. Just imagine if they had made hardware, or just imagine if they had more of a focus in gaming. It's almost like they're hands off. They let other people populate their store, and they get paid off of it. So it's Sony is now to the point where I've made this prediction long ago, and maybe the timeline might not be quite there yet, but I say if Monday or next week we hear that Microsoft signs a cloud deal with Amazon, expect that Sony will be purchased by Amazon at some point. I don't think Apple's going to be the one, because, like I said, they're making money hand over fist without even really getting involved in gaming per se. Amazon, I think, is the one that's standing off to the side, looking to hop in when the opportunity strikes.
Yep.
And they're kind of just looking at the playing field and seeing that, hey, we could, get our credibility and reputation up pretty quick with a purchase of Sony, because, after this deal goes through, and it's not that, oh, woe is Sony, they're going away. No, they're going to be more primed for purchase, and maybe those higher ups will be willing to accept a payout, considering the share price might take a little bit longer to turn around to get it back to where they'd be happy to step away type of deal. A buyout from Amazon would definitely be more to their liking. But I that's future stuff. We'll talk about that after ABK. But yeah, I think Sony has made so much noise now that they're now being ignored. They were the squeaky wheel that didn't get the grease. They're getting the corner and the dunce cap, and that's kind of what they deserve.
I love. Somebody's got to do a GIF with the dunce cap with Jim Ryan. Somebody's got to do it. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah,
see, that's a spicy fuzzy that we love, we know and love.
Yeah, but I hope next week we hear some more announcements as far as cloud 10-year deals, and like I said, if Luna's one of them, it not game over for Sony, but it's going to be game changing for Sony. Let's put it that way.
I'll say this, and we talked about this, and I didn't make myself clear when I was talking about this the other day. For the EU and the UK, Amazon's Luna is a big, doesn't matter, because it's only Luna is only available here in the States, and until Amazon makes it clear that they're in on this, like they're serious about getting into gaming and make Luna available, like in the UK or the EU or other countries, it's not going to make much of a difference. But, and that's a big but here, folks. If Microsoft was able to sign Luna for this country, it literally destroys. I already think that their case is destroyed, to be honest with you, with the FTC. I just think it's ridiculous at this point. And we're going to get into the FTC momentarily. But I am going to say that this news today with the EU is, like I said, I think Sony, and of course I want to, quote FOS patents, he seems to think that Sony has overplayed their hand, and I agree. I said that from the beginning. I thought Jim Ryan was doing what a CEO or president is supposed to do on a deal that's going to affect his shareholders. So I don't hate Jim Ryan. He's a businessman. That's what businessmen do. What I don't like is how he painted PlayStation as the victim here when we all know. I mean, like I said, you don't have to have a 12-point degree in gaming talk to understand who the market leader is. You don't have to have 20 years invested in the business to know that they meaning Sony and PlayStation, have continued to do deceptive practices. If you are a Sony PlayStation fan, I am. I'm heavily invested in the brand. I just paid $120 for their service. I have the console. I have 2 controllers. I have a headset. I have the charging dock. I have the camera. I have a ton of games. So I'm heavily invested in it. What I don't like is the way they rake me over the coals. The way they charge me $10 for use of the DualSense and upgraded graphics. I think that's kind of shitty. Sorry. And I think that ultimately they're going to find themselves taking what Microsoft is offering to everyone. And I'm glad that it's that we're starting to see this transpire, because the deal has to go through. Everyone is going to benefit from it, including Sony, who's going to have Call of Duty. The only thing that they're not going to have is marketing rights. And that's it. Listen, 2 things. One of which I want to catch up on Super Chats. And of course, I'm going to run a new commercial, which I'm going to start doing at the middle of every show, that Sean LeBrie made for Double Barrel Gaming in regards to our merch store that we have launched with Teespring. So let me just read the Super Chats, and I'll get that commercial for you ASAP. First of all, the first Super Chat of the day comes the way of Tom from Toonami. And he says this after dropping a $2 Super Chat. And it's a good factoid. I didn't know this. St. Patrick was Italian, you know. Well, I did not know that. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here, as always, Tom. JetFan95. He drops a $2 Super Chat and says, shocked Sony didn't get SE to side with them on ABK. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked, because the numbers are there. Like I said, guys, if you want to argue my points of being an Xbox fan versus your points of being a PlayStation fan, let's have a talk. Let's sit down. Let's hash it out. Let's have some fun. Let's have some conversation. And we can have opinions. But you can't have opinions for numbers. The numbers do not lie. You can turn them. You can twist them. You can come at it from different points of view. Like, I don't know, Christopher Dring constantly does of GameIndustry.biz, where he reports physical sales as the de facto number and not digital, because, well, he's trying to turn the numbers for his narrative. You can't argue the numbers. The numbers are the numbers are the facts. The facts of the matter is that PlayStation, by leaps and bounds, holds an incredible market lead. And this deal is not going to really change much, at least for the first 5 years, until Microsoft is able to take that Call of Duty picture of Call of Duty whatever and slap it on all their boxes and tell everyone, hey, you get a chance to play this for $15 a month or $5 a month through the family plan. Sony's going to be the market leader, because people aren't leaving the console. They're just not. But let me continue. Gamers Play HUD Zero, generous friend of the program, who's not only been a channel member for over a year, he drops a $2 Super Chat and says, I am at work, but let's just say Microsoft ABK deal equals done. And I agree. Sith Lord, who's been a channel member for 11 months, says, happy Friday. Google and Sega need to sign the deal for Call of Duty just to make Sony look bad, but Sony needs to make smart business deals. Yeah, well, they've been doing some smart business deals, because they've been keeping content away from Xbox players for years. We have Jonas the Dad, just a very generous $5 Super Chat, and says, said it yesterday. The PlayStation board will not be happy having to give up corpo secrets to the U.S. media. Now this. Jimmy Boy on thin ice, hit that like button. Yeah, and you know what's crazy, folks? We haven't even seen the subpoenaed documents that are going to make the airwaves in the coming weeks, and I am here for it. Pragmatic. Oh no, LMNOPO, who's been a channel member for 6 months. Hey, brother, long time, no time. Hopefully you and the fam are doing well. He drops a $5 super chat and says, I think it's important to keep Sony in the pocket because of games like Destiny and MLB The Show on Xbox. To that point, Sony had no choice but to put MLB on to Xbox. Otherwise, they were going to lose the license, which is interesting. And in regards to Destiny, according to the contract that they signed when they purchased, which I've never seen a contract signed like this, when they purchased Bungie last year for $3.6 billion, the contract stated that that Destiny IP must remain multi-plat. So I think Sony knew what they were doing. They knew they weren't going to get Bungie without it, and Destiny is always going to be on everywhere.
Employees threatening to quit.
What's that?
A lot of employees were threatening to quit.
Yes, that is correct. They were gonna move their talent somewhere else, and to retain, retention on when you sell a company is incredibly important because you want to keep your talent. That was part of the deal. We have Brett, a Pragmatic Eagle. That's a very generous $10 super chat. And he's been a channel member for 2 years. Pragmatic Eagle, thank you so much for the incredible support. He says, good morning, Boom, Dave, Crispy, Fuzzy, and chat. Everyone hit the like button. Thank you for that, brother. And thank you for the generosity, as always. Brett Bingham, generous friend of the program, who drops a $5 super chat and says, Amazon would most likely only be able to buy the PlayStation and possibly Sony's hardware division. They own MGM and Prime Music, unlikely to buy all of Sony. And I was actually going to say that. I'm glad you reminded me, brother, because that's the same thing with Apple. I don't think Apple would be allowed to buy Sony proper because they have Sony Music and Sony Pictures. And that'd be a really big deal for regulators because of Apple's music. And obviously, Apple has their own streaming service, and the same thing with Amazon. They have Amazon Pictures, there's Sony Pictures. They have a streaming service. Sony has a streaming service. There are not many companies. I honestly, if there was someone's going to buy Sony, it was going to be Tencent. To be honest with you, if someone were to come in, it'd be Tencent to buy them, and I hope so for selfish reasons. Because if that happens, they lose the Spider-Man IP, which is awesome. It goes right back to Marvel, and now Marvel has everybody, which I like. And then, of course, maybe you get a Spider-Man game on Xbox. Who knows? Jacob Novick, who has been a channel member for 2 months. Thanks so much for that. And he drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, I don't want Sony to lose Call of Duty because they're greedy. I would say normally, but I'm sorry. I want them to lose it because they are greedy. If Phil signs with Sony anyway, I'm fine with it. Sony's going to get the deal that everyone else is getting. And for clarification, I want this to be clear. The cloud services are getting all of Microsoft, Xbox's content, along with Bethesda, Activision, Blizzard content. That's all going to be on the cloud services. You must buy the content to play it on these streaming services. Where people get confused, and Microsoft confirmed it this week, the only thing that is on the table for Nintendo and Sony is Call of Duty. Not all of ABK, meaning that the next Crash Bandicoot is probably going to be an exclusive for Xbox. The next Spyro is going to be an exclusive for Xbox. The next, the new IP, the rumored IP that Infinity Ward is working on, an open world space shooter a la Mass Effect, is going to be exclusive to Xbox and PC. So just for clarification, Brett Bingham drops let's see, two $5 super chats. So thank you so much for that, Brett. Additional $5 super chats, and he says, "Boom, I think you should also run a merch ad before your show's intro." Yeah, I'm trying to figure. I don't want it to be too intrusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to shove it down your throat. Because listen, we did it because people asked for it. The 3 artists that I'm working with that come up with some incredible designs, and we have some other stuff in development. I want to shout them out. Obviously, that's the Richter, that has Ben Kenobi, and there's also Sean LeBrie. Those three artists helped Mrs. Boomstick and I get this thing off the ground. And thank you. A big shout out to Teespring for helping us get this off the ground. So we're very happy with everything. I'm not going to lie, folks. This weekend, last weekend, I was a nervous wreck because I was putting all this together. I've never done this kind of stuff before. And I had to change designs at the last minute. I didn't know you had to pick colors. It's a huge learning experience. So shout out to Teespring for helping with that. We also have another $5 super chat from Brett Bingham. He says, Brad and Phil offering Jim a deal he can't refuse in order to keep his job, Call of Duty, and he has the clown emoji. That's hilarious. Gerald Mack, who's been a channel member for a year. Folks, he has just gifted you, or at least 5 people, 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. That's awesome, Gerald. Thank you so much for the generosity, brother. I love you, and that is amazing. And we have one come in from, Dreadpool put it in here. Congratulations to Talos RE, Steven Derbyshine, Tony Grasso, Rick Solaris, and Andy B. Drumming for winning the memberships. Dude, thank you so much for putting that in there. Definitely appreciate that, Dread. So let me see if I can find, let's see if I can just bring this down real quick. Look, we're going to get into what's going on at the FTC, folks, because we have to. It has been, in my opinion, a complete poop show, if you will. Like I said, from an ideology point of view, right? You have to stand with and applaud what Lina Khan is trying to do. And I would imagine that as she's applying or she's being given this position, her ideology was to make sure that consumers are protected from big companies that are looking to gouge us as consumers. And that's a great ideology because that's what you want. You don't want to be the consumer that is paying 3 times the amount that you should be because a corporation is allowed to get away with it because they have billions of dollars, and you just don't want that. So from an ideology point of view, I appreciate what she's trying to do. I just don't like how she's doing it. And one of the things that have come up more times than not, specifically even with Hogue Law, who is someone that we all know and love and trust, she is not using the rule of law. And that is a big problem. We're going to get into what was announced this morning, which, of course, is additional breaking news. I'm going to play you the promo that was made for Double Barrel Gaming by Sean LeBrie, who is one of the most talented dudes I know out there. So here we go. Check it out, folks. All right, folks, there it is. I'm going to drop the link in there if you're interested right now for the next, I think, couple of weeks. I think 3 weeks. Teespring has offered anyone that wants to purchase a merch from my store on their website. If you type in the code BoomStick in all caps, you get 15% off of your total order. But listen, Web Dave, I'm going to go to you first on this, brother, because
all right.
Again, big breaking news, folks. This comes the way of course, Bloomberg is reporting. Let me just pull this up in real time. Let's see where we got it over here. Hold on just a sec. Yep, here we go. I got the story. This comes the way of kind of Bloomberg Law. This is reported by a good friend of the program who has been confirmed to be an actual human being, Idle Sloth 84_ on Twitter, and is being it has been reported that on top of the dysfunction that is currently enveloped the FTC, which is a major governmental arm of this country. We obviously we had a Republican leave earlier before the announcement of the lawsuit. So the board consisted of 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. And then obviously we have learned that the last Republican representing that party is leaving on the 31st. She has resigned her position on the board for the FTC, citing Lina Khan's behavior as being erratic, as being unconstitutional, as being not following the rule of law. She has made things very difficult. Morale, a survey was taken and it was put out there by the senator that had left. Morale has considerably dropped each year, going back 3 years, and we're talking double digit numbers. Well, on top of all of that bad news, on top of the ridiculous amount of losses that she has under her belt as FTC chair, Lina Khan has now seen the FTC's senior attorneys are leaving at a pace not seen in the last 20 years because of her leadership. And again, folks, this comes the way of Bloomberg Law, bloomberglaw.com/antitrust. This is pretty big, Dave. And like I said, I'm not sure how this is going to equate to what's happening with ABK. All I can suggest is that we know that the FTC's judge has subpoenaed Sony's third-party marketing deals, every contract from 2019, January 1st, 2019 forward. I think that, and we all know this, once this becomes public record, yes, there's going to be some redacted things in there, especially when it comes to, insider numbers and the way that they do business. But ultimately, I think it's going to really put Sony on blast. I think, and I've said this before, Sony might have the gun turned on them, meaning that if Microsoft can prove that they are conducting anti-consumer like behavior, which we know that they are, just on the surface, we know that they are. A lawsuit could be levied against Sony, and they could find themselves in the crosshairs of the FTC because, well, the FTC used Sony's own words as gospel to do this frivolous lawsuit. This story comes the way of Dan Papscon of Bloomberg, and the title of his story that was posted at 5 a.m. this morning: FTC lawyers leave at fastest rate in years, says as Lina Khan sets new tone. And it says here that between the years of 2021 and 2022, data shows 71 senior staff attorneys have left the agency. And he goes on to say 71 line staff attorneys, non-leadership senior attorneys at the top of the federal government pay scale, known as the GS-15S, left the agency in the 2-year period between 2021 and 2022, according to data obtained by Bloomberg Law under the Federal Freedom of Information Act. That's the highest number of departures in the category for a comparable 2-year period since 2000. I mean, we're in 2023, Dave. This is pretty big. I mean, you've been talking about this. You and I, many people have been talking about this for quite some time. This is a bit of a dagger, in my opinion, and I think that as we get closer to the judge overseeing this, again, I call it a frivolous lawsuit. It is waste of millions and millions of dollars that we've seen her go against Amazon for MGM. She lost that. She was actually quite embarrassed by that. The FTC was embarrassed by that. We just saw that they had to bow out gracefully for the Meta acquisition. And it appears, Dave, that the ABK deal is probably going to get thrown out at the level of the FTC, not even make it to federal court. What are your thoughts on this new revelation?
Well, to guide a ship to port, you're going to have a crew, and if everybody keeps jumping off, this thing is going to hit land somewhere, not where she wants it to be. She has definitely lost her way, especially with her team, her own team. Is not backing her, and those are things that you really need to have in place. And is it going to stop what happens? No. As far as whatever the outcome is going to be, but it definitely looks bad on her. And they may at some point, she does answer to Congress and other people. So she may get it in her ear that maybe it's time to give up the ghost, as it were, and to get this behind us, because it doesn't look good for her. And I don't know what her outcome will be, but I have a feeling that she's probably not going to be in the job much longer. There'll be at some point where they'll decide to replace her. No matter what you think, she's fighting the good fight for her party. If you're not winning the fight, or you're not on the right track, as far as the perception and the views of others, it's not a good look for the FTC, and it reflects bad now on the party that's quote unquote in charge. So yeah, I have a feeling that it's just not going to go her way, and it does look bad that there's so many people leaving. It definitely speaks to the integrity of some of the other people that are there, that good or bad, there's still the rule of law, and there's still what they're supposed to follow, which is their protect the consumer. The consumer is who they're supposed to be protecting, not another company and not another entity. So it and like there's new documents that have been requested recently, and those will we'll see where those follow. Microsoft is in a good position.
Yep.
And I think that they just need to steadfast, hold on, let these entities start coming, because stuff's going to start dropping. One of the big three are going to make their decisions very soon. And I know that the China is actually could possibly drop before the end of this month as well too, which would definitely, they're a big player, whether we think they are or not.
No, they're yes, I 1,000% agree. 1,000% agree.
So once they make their decision known, and from what we've heard, it's going to be pretty much a backing consent. And if that happens, then the others will continue to have egg on their face if they don't come to terms with this pretty soon. If Microsoft is willing to give concessions, it's probably time to just accept them and get out, get done with the deal, put it behind you, and move on. If she's trying to make precedent with big brother or big big business trying to take over, this is not the case that she should have stood behind, because it really, from a lot of lawyers, Hogue Law, Luke, whole bunch of others that have been on your program, talked about it, they feel that this is definitely not a case worth losing your job over, because it's just not the arguments haven't been there. Yes, there's been some points and some things, but Microsoft has addressed those.
Yep, they sure have.
So that's my point on that. I think they've addressed everything pretty clearly. So you got a lot of good super chats coming in about this.
Yeah, I see that. Well, one specific one I want to address, and I want to thank him for being here. Eric83. First of all, brother, thank you so much for being here and watching the show. He drops a $2 super chat, and he asks a question. He says, can you talk about the documents that Microsoft hasn't provided for the FTC? And the reason why we're not going to talk about it, because those documents don't matter, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yep.
Microsoft is the one that's being sued. They do not have to provide evidence that the FTC could use against them. The FTC has to do their own investigation and find the correct reasons why the lawsuit is worthy of being seen and heard by their own FTC judge, and then potentially moving on to a federal judge. Whatever information that they want, I'm sure Microsoft will be more than happy to give to them, but they don't have to make the case for the FTC. The FTC has to make the case against them. And I'm just going to throw out some things that are, a bit of a head scratcher. We learned after all of this stuff started popping up with the FTC that this week they have requested nearly $600 million to be given to them so they can continue their fight against companies. What's interesting, Crispy Bomb, is we learned that they are currently in a position financially where they can't even start an investigation to what I would consider body check the power companies of this country who currently are gouging consumers. Think about that for a second. They wasted money on trying to block Amazon's purchase of MGM. They tried to block Meta's purchase of the fitness company and the VR company.
Within, I believe. Right?
Within, yes. They've trying to block the merger of Activision Blizzard King, which is not going to harm the market. And they actually did not do their due diligence, where they have actually used Sony's complaints as talking points. And now you see this report where they don't have enough money to open up an investigation against power companies, but it gets even worse. Yesterday, it was announced, Crispy Bomb, that T-Mobile is purchasing Ryan Reynolds' mobile company. Right. But what's interesting about that, and again, I know it's a little off skew with video games, but I'm trying to make a big point here, Crispy, is the fact that last year, T-Mobile bought Sprint. And I was a Sprint customer, and I had no say in the matter, and now I have T-Mobile, and T-Mobile sucks. So now they're buying Mint Mobile, and no fights, no questions, no inquiries by the FTC. But you're worried about Call of Duty on PlayStation. I'm just saying that right now, and I got to read a super chat that came in. I'm going to get to everyone because there's been a lot of them. And real quick, shout out to Dreadpool, who had to be out of here. He has his dad's in the hospital. Please, everyone, send his pops lots of prayers, love. He's still here. You still see him, but he had to be out of here. He had a family emergency, so of course we hope everything is well with his dad. And of course, lots of hugs and prayers for Dreadpool. Gaming Nerd Austria drops a very generous £5 super chat and says, as a European, I usually shake my head at the EU government, but wow, the FTC seems even crazier here. Microsoft will win this. Sony will lose almost everything. And I agree. I mean, Sony is quote unquote, they're not going to lose. They're going to get Call of Duty for 10 years. They're going to get parity. They're going to get everything that everyone else is getting. They're just not going to dictate where things go because they have no right to do so. Crispy, let's talk about it, brother.
Oh, well, you cited something that, I mean, what's funny is I feel like Boom reads my mind because this is where I was going to go with this.
I'm doing the mind trick.
dude, you just kind of mind effed me real quick. I'm just saying, like, literally, this is exactly where I was going to go with this. The FTC is reeling right now, and there is a legitimate fight for what they're asking for with the electric companies. And I'll tell you, if you don't live in America, I get you don't understand what I'm saying. But the electric companies are like what some people might consider the cable companies back in the day. Now, because of, fiber internet and stuff like that, I got to drop that horrible cable company after all these years. So the fight is legitimate. So I live in Connecticut, and we have two electric providers. It is Eversource and it's United Illuminating. United Illuminating is not allowed to go anywhere into where Eversource is, and vice versa. It is a horrible thought process that needs to change. They cite these things that are like, oh, you have a provider that you can go and get, that it gives you an option. That's not good enough. Most people don't go through that. It's actually a pain because then Eversource has to approve it. Luckily, my girlfriend was very smart and is like, we're going to get solar panels. I'm going to tell you right now, since the start of this year, the increase has been 30% for people's bills. It is absurd. Okay. And this is where I go and say the FTC is trying to save face at this point. They are trying to say we have a legitimate argument here, which they do. But the problem is why go through all these illegitimate arguments about things that most people you can just not play games. There's a difference. I think we all have electricity, at least in America. You know what I'm saying? Like in some way, shape, or form. And I cite my own state as saying, okay, and we've had the Attorney General say we're doing an investigation into them. And that's where I go and say the FTC literally trying to get this budget to go through. And also Lina is probably trying to save face and saying we're going to focus on other things, but they should have done that to begin with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Media consumption, whether it be gaming or otherwise, does not matter when it comes to the actual American. You can choose to use it or not. That is the whole point. Electricity is a necessity at this point. It's like water. Like I'm hearing that like some water company thing is going on and they're going to merge with one of the electric companies in my state. I mean, so what? You're going to have a monopoly over the entire like consumption of not only energy, but actual something that we need in our lives? I mean, are you going to price gouge that like you just did? So I look at this and I say, this is the problem. They made bad choices in the FTC. Most people are going to look at Lina Khan. And unfortunately, I'm a manager. I know no matter, I could tell my crew to do the right thing and then they don't do it. But guess whose fault it still is? It's mine. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. They don't want to hear excuses. So I feel like, once I heard that, I was like, man, they're trying to like, okay, like, we're going to focus on other things. But the problem is those things you should have been focusing on a long time ago. And I think it's too little too late. I think you have dug your, quote unquote grave, and you have made it known to the government. Because, I mean, you could say what you want about Biden, but he does play both sides. And you have to realize that I come from being an independent my entire life. I have never voted otherwise. I vote with my heart, my mind, and my gut. And sometimes I'm wrong, but I am not privy to the fact that, certain, parties have certain thought process. I think they're both wrong a lot. And I think they both have points a lot. So I stay in my lane. And I do believe she feels that she is about to lose her job. And she should lose her job. It should have been already done already.
I agree.
To have so many people leave that are senior leadership, to take away the complete and total bipartisanship of the FTC.
Yep.
It is illogical.
It's become a dictatorship at this point, hasn't it?
It really it's become like, basically like, the queen or the king says so. And it's like, that's not the way it works in America. I'm sorry. Like I get that it might work different in other places, but this is not how it works. And, to fight these battles that you can't win because it doesn't make sense. When there's other battles that need to be won, you need to refocus. And I just feel like it's too late. It's too little now. And, you're basically citing these things to get your budget through. But are you actually going to follow through with it? And I don't believe you at this point. So that's where I'm going to leave that.
No, I mean, listen, great points, dude, all around. Like I said, I know that sometimes people poke fun at me for bringing like, real life stuff into like, the price of cream cheese and things. But, Yes, I'm a podcaster. Yes, I love doing this and I love talking about gaming. But there are a lot of there are a lot of in between line stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And you know, seeing how it's being run right now, specifically with the FTC, when they're supposed to protect consumers, not corporations, their whole package to sue Microsoft, stop this deal, was to protect Sony. That's not what they're here for. Fuzzy, I want to get you in on this, but I have to read more from the story from Bloomberg, and this is more damning information, folks. If you had any doubt as to what's going on, and I call the FTC at this point a clown show, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying so. It is supposed to be a very powerful, steadfast arm of government for the states, and it's looked upon as a joke, right? Listen to this. And again, I'm reading verbatim from the story, folks. Again, this was come from BloombergLaw.com. And they say this: you lose a lot of institutional knowledge when senior staff and career leaders leave, said Debbie Feinstein, the former head of the FTC's Bureau of Competition and now a partner at Arnold and Porter. She goes on to say career staff know whether something has to be looked at before, whether it's been litigated before or not, and they've been through things that they know, and that information is invaluable. So now you're having senior staff lawyers leave who understand how to read the room, and they're leaving not because they're moving on to better positions, because maybe they are, Fuzzy. They're leaving specifically because of the leadership of Lina Khan. Let's talk about it.
Well, anytime you're on like a losing team, you're looking to be traded or leave that team as soon as you can. Not saying that it's a sinking ship, but to some extent it kind of is. Like if they've already gone head to head with a lot of these new tech companies, and the whole motto is to hold them accountable, but not really focus on the things to protect the consumers, just, oh, you're spending all these dollars in acquisitions and whatnot. Let's see if we can't throw a monkey wrench into it or something. That shouldn't be the focus or the mission statement for the FTC. So the lawyers that are going to be the ones that are the face in the courtroom are not going to want to constantly be in front of a judge bringing cases forward that are not, one, winnable in the current rules and laws that are on the books, and two, when it's not something that maybe they are invested in. And yeah, a lot of people will go to a job, do the job based on it pays the bills type of deal. And I get that. But sometimes, especially when it comes to things like in the legal sense or in law in general, a lot of lawyers will go and work for specific entities based on either the tradition or what the overall goal is for that department. And if it seems like you're kind of going off message as far as what your department was created or founded for, a lot of the people that are in that building that are under that leadership are going to start to look to move elsewhere, because it's not like you can go ahead and say, hey, Lina, you're screwing this up, or hey, maybe we should just focus on the consumer end of things as opposed to worrying about these mega corporations doing what they're doing. It's kind of a tough battle. Like, I don't know. I think at this point it goes to show that there is, truth to the matter of the dissension within the group. When the one individual was releasing some of the morale reports and things, and it was showing that
it was
morale
the former panel members of the Republican Party.
Yeah. So some of this, politics and party lines. I grew up in a time where it was more about politics reaching across the aisles or middle ground or compromise. And if you're not willing to compromise, then you're just fueling into this whole notion that it's my way or the highway. And
Yes.
if you have a 0-6 record, I mean, maybe you should hit the highway because your way isn't working, type of thing. And I don't think these lawyers want to be a part of that or have that on their resume. I mean, just imagine you're the lawyer that was working for the FTC during their low point of losing constant case after case. If you're going for a partnership or to work for another law firm later on down the road, they're going to look at that and be like, yeah, we're going to look at someone else that may have, been able to litigate better with some of their cases, or at least have it where they could get the other side to settle before going to court, type of thing. So we'll see how it goes. But if primary lawyers are leaving that establishment, which I'm pretty sure overturn or the turnover for that is somewhat reasonable. But if it seems like it's at a higher rate now, then all things start to point to leadership, and maybe that is where the change should happen to get everything back on track. But we'll see between this and the administration decisions down the road.
Yeah, I mean, listen, only time is going to tell. I'm very much looking forward, specifically to these documents. And again, like folks, first of all, we have over 600 people here, which is amazing, and I cannot thank you enough. We've hit some pretty high marks for Double Barrel Gaming in the month of March. But specifically in 2023, it's been big. But for March, obviously we announced we crossed 4 million views in under 5 years, which is ridiculous for a channel this small. We're averaging some upwards of 600 people in the live chat, and we do this 5 days a week, which is bonkers. We have crossed over 20,000 views per week, which is, again, small channel, bonkers. So Mrs. BoomStick and I cannot thank you enough. We crossed 12K the other day, and we launched our merch store. So honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, folks, we can't not say thank you enough, because without you here to support a dream that we both had, it wouldn't be feasible, and we are incredibly grateful for it. But I listen, getting back to ABK, specifically with the FTC, I, as a gamer, know what Sony's been up to. I've been watching the market. I've been playing games for a very long time. I got into YouTube because I didn't like the way media was presenting, specifically Xbox, but conducting themselves. I fell out of love with a lot of big websites, including IGN, which I used to be one of the guys that kept the lights on. I paid $30 a year because I liked them so much. I watched all of their shows, and I didn't like the way the company turned. So I decided I wanted to do my own thing, and that's why Double Barrel Gaming came from. But I know, and I'm sure that the deceptive practices and the deviant stuff behind the scenes that PlayStation continues to do. And listen, again, I say this all the time, guys. I'm taking nothing away from Sony putting out some absolutely astounding games, and I want this to be clear. I'm a huge PlayStation fan. I just dislike Sony in the way they do business. You may not like The Last of Us. I love it. You may not like God of War. You may not even like Horizon. Maybe you don't like Aloy, one of my favorite new characters. I like what they do. I just don't like the BS that is on the side of it. And all of that BS is going to come forward very soon, and we're going to see, or get a chance to see, all of these types of business deals that have a lot of anti-Xbox, Xbox Game Pass writings in there, and Sony's going to find themselves, like I said, I think ultimately the gun is going to be turned on Sony. Sony's going to find themselves in big trouble with government, because they are the market leader. They do continue to produce anti-competitive behavior, and this is why they're the market leader. Yes, they have great games, but they do a lot of underhanded things. And again, I don't know, even if the deal goes through, and I believe it's going to go through, the market leadership is not going to change instantly. It's not going to go from 80-20 to 20 to 80. It's just not going to happen. It takes a long time for the ship to be turned, and people aren't going to leave PlayStation. And you know something? And you shouldn't. If you don't want to leave PlayStation, no one's asking you to. What you should do is find a way to maybe play a franchise like Forza, like Gears of War, like Halo, and many of the new IPs that are coming. Obviously Starfield, not on PlayStation. And if PlayStation had it their way, and we learned this a couple of years ago, Dave, you know what I'm talking about. They tried to lock it up as a permanent exclusive, and then Microsoft bought the company. So they tried to do it, and Microsoft just bought the company. And now that it's exclusive on Xbox, it's a problem. See, that's the thing that annoys me about the whole negative aspect about the PlayStation community. Xbox bad, PlayStation good, no matter what they do.
Yep.
And that is frustrating as all H. But I want to talk about another topic that has just come across my desk. We have 20 minutes of the show. And I have to talk about this because, as you know, if you've been following me for a while, I am a huge Resident Evil nerd. Like, I remember my brother Neo Mental, when the PlayStation, I had imported the PlayStation 1 from Japan. It cost me like $1,000, but I got 4 games with it. I got Ridge Racer, I got Tekken, I got Battle Arena Toshinden, and another one called Kelik the Blood, which is in Japanese. It was unplayable. I don't know how to read Japanese. And I remember the first time that my dad was passing, and he saw Tekken and the CG movie, and he was blown away. And specifically for Resident Evil, I will never forget. This is a fun fact. This is a fun story. Before we get into the scores for Resident Evil 4 Remake, when a game, it's you have to buy this game. My brother, remember back in the days, when you can trade stuff into Funkoland, he traded everything but the kitchen sink in, wrapped wires and Disney movies that were on that we had on VHS. Yes, actually VHS. For some reason, Funkoland paid a lot for them, and he basically brought in all of this stuff to get the PlayStation and Resident Evil when it launched here in America. And I'll never forget, folks. I'll never forget. It was something out of like the Little Rascals. We're home, we're chilling. He's playing, and there's a group of us, all of our friends. It had to be about 12 people in the room, and we're all huddled around a 27-inch tube TV from Sears. Yes, we're that old. And we're watching it. The lights are off. Everyone, you could hear a pin drop, folks. And I'll never forget that when the dogs jumped through the window, everyone fell back on each other. It was freaking hilarious. One of my favorite gaming moments of all time. So I tell you that, and I say all of that to say, thanks to Benji Sales, who's a great friend of the community, an awesome friend of mine, someone that I think that it needs more followers and more subscribers to his channels because he's just an all around really good dude. He has just put out a tweet, folks. These numbers are bonkers. Now, Resident Evil 4 took and turned Resident Evil on its ear when it released all those years ago as a GameCube exclusive. Could you imagine that? A GameCube exclusive Resident Evil 4, because it brought it into a third-person, over-the-shoulder kind of a view, as opposed to what we were used to with Resident 2, Resident 3, Code Veronica, and a few others, that it was the fixed camera where you turned and you couldn't do anything with the camera. This over here, you had the free roam of the camera for the most part. Well, they remade it, just like they remade Resident Evil 2, which was my game of the year when that came out. Resident Evil 3 was fantastic, but ultimately for me as a diehard fan, they cut out so much content that I kind of wish they didn't. Maybe we'll get a director's cut, because if you remember back in the days, Capcom used to release director's cuts years later of these games. There was a director's cut for Resident Evil 2. There was a director's cut for Resident Evil 3. I believe there was even a director's cut for Resident Evil 1, if I'm not mistaken. Well, the scores are in, folks. The demo is out. Go download the demo right now. It's called the Chainsaw Demo. You can look it up on you can get it on PlayStation. You can get it on Steam. You can get it on Xbox. Just type it in and look for it. Here are the scores so far. IGN, 10 out of 10. GameSpot, 10 out of 10. Easy Allies, 10 out of 10. The Sixth Axis, 10 out of 10. Push Square, 10 out of 10. Shack News, 10 out of 10. Gaming Trend, 100 out of 100. Giant Bomb, 5 out of 5. VGC, 5 out of 5. Game Informer, 9.5. PlayStation, I guess it's PSU, 9.5, and Metro, a 9 out of 10. It is currently sitting on Metacritic at a 93 meta. Dave, if this wasn't on your radar, I think it should be now. Let's talk about it, brother.
Yeah, it's a shame that the scores are so low. I'm just
I love it. That's good stuff.
I mean, wow. Well, we knew the game was great. The original, fantastic, but the little cleanup. I played the demo all the way through. The cleanup they did on it, the new, I guess, imagining of the graphics. Man, it's even scarier than it was originally. They've darkened down some areas. They've made it more eerie than even it was the first time out, if that's possible. But yeah, well deserved. And I can't wait to see or play the finished product. That's really going to be the telling thing for me. It really needs nothing else. It's just a matter of it's a good. I would consider it a classic game, revamped, resouped up for current gen, and I love it. I think it's great, and all the success goes to Capcom. And I mean, come on, man, their track record now is pretty unbelievable. I only hope that they do the same treatment to 5 and clean that up
I
a little
am
bit.
going to have to push back on that. I like 5. I think 5 could get a remake. I think it would be pretty dope, especially because that game was really based on co-op, and that game was dope. I got almost every achievement in that game. I loved it. I have to say that the next game has to be Code Veronica.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying. And
what
I know
about Zero? Have you ever played Zero?
I beat Zero a couple of times. It
Zero
actually was
too.
quite good. If you know something, Zero was probably the least of the favorites, especially for a lot of people.
Yep.
I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
One of the most broken things of Zero, especially if you're a Resident Evil fan, there were no boxes.
Yeah.
So you had to leave all your shit all over the floor to come back for it. It was the most ridiculous. I was like, Capcom, why do you hate me?
Well, I definitely agree with you. What I was basically saying was that I think that 5 definitely needs to get done.
Oh,
But
100%. I absolutely agree.
would
5 was fantastic.
definitely think that Code Veronica definitely needs to be done. And if that's next, that's even better, because I think it would fall in line with the release that way if they did that. So yeah, I agree with you. Code Veronica, let's get on that. Let's get that done and make it to where everybody can enjoy that.
Dave, what I really like about what Capcom is doing is I absolutely loved Resident Evil 7.
Oh yeah.
I was on the fence as a classic, third person perspective RE fan. I played it, and it was one of my. It's not the favorite. My favorite of all time is Resident Evil 2. It's 98 Resident Evil 2. I beat probably 100 times. I love it so much. But I came around to the first person perspective. I came around on the fact that we were, it was Ethan rather than Chris or Jill or, one of the mainstays. I'd love to see a Barry game, to be honest with you. I think everyone's waiting for a Barry game. And then Resident Evil 8 came out, and I still haven't beaten it.
Yeah.
You could believe it. I'm up to literally, I'm probably, I don't know, 10 minutes from beating the game. I really hated the direction that made Chris Redfield an asshole. Pardon my
Yeah.
French, folks. Did not like that. I understand his his methods have to be changed, but I didn't like, and I don't know. I didn't have the same affection for 8 that I had with 7. But I don't know. Crispy, let's bring you in on the conversation. Dave had some great points. I love the fact that he wants to see 5 done. 5 was great because it was co-op. I like I said, I don't want to say I push back on Dave because nobody wants to push Dave around. This is a beautiful man right here.
I don't know about that.
I want Code Veronica because I'm selfish. I know Miles Dompierre, if you're listening, he's booing me right now. He's literally just yelling at the computer, boo. He is, because he does not like Code Veronica. And that's a horror man right there. So I can't argue with him, but I will. What I think is important here, besides the game getting 10 out of 10s and having this high meta, is the fact that Capcom is still making a Resident Evil 9 that's going to be first person, but they have not abandoned the classic fans like myself who want that third person, story driven, over the shoulder experience that we know and love. What are your thoughts on was RE4 Remake on your radar, or is it now?
You did say it was a GameCube exclusive back
It was originally a
sure
GameCube, Nintendo GameCube exclusive that I actually still own it. I have the collector's edition from Japan with every Resident Evil released in a box set. It is dope and it's worth hundreds.
Oh, dude. Well, dude, I'm a collector, dude. I got like 20-year-old sports cards, and I got like a Matchbox Coca-Cola like little thing.
What if I told you I had Secret Wars 1 through 12 in mint condition that were my dad's?
Oh man, dude.
Spider-Man 252, 5 copies, mint condition, put away.
I have Sabretooth #1.
Oh, that's a good one.
And it's holographic, like the whole cover is like in metallic. It's freaking amazing. It's not mint condition though. I screwed that up, but I still have it.
Nice.
So I haven't played the game because unfortunately when I was growing up, I knew people that had GameCube. I fell off of Nintendo. I was just like PlayStation all the way. Especially during that time. But I go over to people's houses and they'd have a GameCube and they'd have an N64. And for some damn reason, we always went to the N64, So I look at it and I haven't played it. I mean, I will say I have played Code Veronica and Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 5 needs a remake because I'm sorry, like I did not like that game. I thought it was too all over the place. They didn't get a linear path to it. And Code Veronica, I never felt like it felt like a Resident Evil. But that's me. That's okay. 4 I've never played. And I think it's because of what you said. So, and now are these scores off of the demo?
No, these are scores off the game. They're early reviews of the game. Yeah, the game releases next week. And these are the Capcom has lifted the
embargo.
The embargo. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. And that's where I go and say, like, think about that. And I mean, we have like a different, like, like I get like some people point, oh, of course they would say that, or, certain sites, but there's enough different sites that have given it, nearly a 10 that you go and say, okay, this is something. So I don't know, like I've been looking for something like, maybe me and my girl play, but I don't think my girl's ever played a Resident Evil, and I know she's probably gonna like it because she likes horror, she likes suspense, she likes all that. And it's like if they do this the way everybody's talking, it might be something I actually buy, because usually I'm just Game Pass. You know what I'm saying? So I'm intrigued. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I say, like, you know, like Resident Evil 2, like we had this conversation. Resident Evil 3, I just couldn't go through it. It just, back then it was not, and I was like, nah, this game is not what I'm looking for. But I never played 4. So I mean, it might
I'm
be
actually,
something on
I'm going
my
to say this
radar now.
publicly. I'm jealous of you. I'm literally jealous of you that you get to experience for the first time the terror of the potato sack man. I'm not going to ruin it for you, brother. But all I know is that make sure you
I've
have.
seen a little bit, but I've kind of ignored it on purpose.
I'm jealous.
I mean,
I'm so jealous.
kind of reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre at times. So yeah, I'm
Oh my! I can't wait for you, because ultimately this is going to be the perfect version. 4 was great. There were some, anyone that has played it, the daughter that you have to protect. There were certain circumstances that were head banging against the wall that you had to do to save her. They have removed all of that. You're in for the finite definitive version. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about this.
I think I'm gonna bring I think the girl will be into this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So it's
yes.
like one of those things, like, you know, like let's play it together and figure it out, because I've never played it. You know, that's no BS. So
I think I think you're gonna like
intriguing.
it. I think you're gonna love it. I think that she's gonna love it. I honestly cannot wait to hear. We'll talk about it once we've all run it through. And it's just, my God, so many games. I can't keep up, folks. I haven't been back to Hogwarts in 5 days because of you damn Halo, and it's just another game is coming. Oh, I can't.
Hey, Boom.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out to Miles Dompierre, who jumped in our chat and he said,
Yes,
"Just popped
Miles.
in."
What's up, brother? He was listening. Oh my
He
God, I
said,
love
"Just
you for
popped
that.
in to say Resident Evil 5 is greater than Code Veronica."
You know what? Boo that man. Everyone boo Miles Dompierre. I
Not at
knew he
all.
was going to say that.
Love you, Miles. Thanks for being here,
Love
buddy.
you,
Great
Miles.
support.
They screwed up perfectly, both of them. So that's all I
Oh
gotta
my
say.
goodness. Listen, shout out to Miles Dompierre, obviously the host of Xbox Chatter Days. Please get over to Miles. Look him up, Miles Dompierre on Twitter. Please follow this man, Miles Dompierre, on YouTube. He's working closely with IGN. Could not be more proud of him. He is an incredible diplomat
He's
to
amazing.
the community. I love you, Miles. I was hoping that you were going to jump in here and get on me for Code Veronica. That's so awesome. I love it. But listen, let me catch up on a couple of super chats that I've got here. First of all, Highlander 001, generous friend of the program, who's been a channel member for 6 months, drops a $5 super chat and says Bloomberg Law is reporting that the FTC's top attorneys. Yeah, I'm sorry, I read this so late. Are resigning from the FTC over her actions. Guess this may not need to go to court. Yeah, I don't think it will. Chris R., generous friend of the program, drops a $5 super chat and says, I agree with you on Khan. The ideology is good, but how about actually taking on the companies that are the market leaders and not third place? I mean, that's very true. I really think that once all of the documents are made public and we see what Sony is doing, there might be a class action lawsuit brought against Sony for anti-competitive practices that we know that they're doing. We also have Eric83, which of course I said that before. He dropped a $2 super chat to talk about the documents that Microsoft hasn't provided to the FTC, and I basically answered that question. Gaming Nerd Austria drops an additional £5 super chat. Oh yeah, he actually said that. I read that earlier. Sorry about that. Gerald Mack, who's been a channel member for 1 year. Thank you so much for the generosity, brother. He drops a $2 super chat and says, shout out to Double Barrel Gaming. You the best. Dude, thanks. Very kind of you to say. And listen, let's get Fuzzy's take on Resident Evil. I mean, listen, if you play the demo, you can see the graphics, you can see the control. All you have to do is look at what they did with Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. These are masterclass remakes. But Resident 4 is getting incredible buzz. Again, I think it is a pinnacle Resident Evil in the series, simply because it really did move us from a fixed camera to an over-the-shoulder point of view, and now we're starting to see the scores come in. Let's talk about it, brother.
Well, I think the big thing is it goes to show that Capcom is on a roll, and it's I don't need to get messy on this one, but I got to bring it up. This goes to show how a company can make, business decisions and then make better ones later on down the road compared to like a Square Enix. Like,
Yep.
just thinking of like with Street Fighter V, obviously during those times they were in worse financial shape. Partnering with Sony made up for that. They were able to get Street Fighter V out, but going to show that they didn't, pigeonhole themselves after the fact, especially with the success of things like Monster Hunter and their remakes for Resident Evil. They went and made it so Street Fighter 6 is on everything. Meanwhile, we got Square Enix in the corner still kind of licking its wounds saying, why is nobody buying our games? Or why is it that we're
they're going to try and sell you an NFT game, which is I can't wait to play. Not.
But as far as the Resident Evil game itself, the fact that graphically, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to look at Digital Foundry sideways for their evaluation, but the fact that it looks like some of the optimization that we've been asking for third parties on Xbox Series X and Series S consoles, looks like Capcom is taking it, that extra step to go ahead and do that. VRR is going to be one of those things moving forward. If you don't already have a TV with that, definitely put that on the checklist for your next purchase type of deal. But that's one of those technologies they'll kind of make up for some of the unoptimized aspects for frame drops and such. But overall, a great game that now looks even greater with current day graphics, improved controls, and things along those lines. This is going to be one of those hard years where the Game Awards at the end of the year, is it going to be that a remake bumps out a few of the stellar games that come out this year, or are we going to have a full field of remakes to some extent? I know a lot of people are going to want to put Metroid in there. I know a lot of people are going to want to put Dead Space in there, and this is probably another one that has earned a spot in that Game of the Year conversation. But it's great to see that they released another graphically beautiful item or Resident Evil game. I have no idea on which one should be next, whether it be Code Veronica or 5. I know 5 had some controversy in the day, but I think at this point it's fine. They could go ahead and take that extra time as far as the environment and stuff like that they're using for it and stuff. But man, looking forward to playing this. Hopefully, we'll see more stuff from Capcom. Speaking of Capcom, Exo Primal. Hopefully, if you haven't checked it out already, demos available. Check that out as well. But like I said, Capcom's on fire right now. They're kind of pulling the weight over there in Japan as far as the premier studios, and Sega isn't doing bad with some of their subsidiaries with like Atlas and stuff like that. But Capcom, they're definitely on a roll this year. This is going to be one of those years where they have probably 2 games, if not maybe 3, that will be in that Game of the Year conversation, or at least most played games this year, because Street Fighter is definitely going to be in the most played, maybe not Game of the Year for awards content.
There's so many games coming out. I mean, obviously, Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue coming into Xbox Game Pass. You have Tekken 8 releasing. You have Street Fighter 6 releasing. It's a staggering year for gamers. It doesn't matter really where you play. You're going to be eating really good. But listen, I want to thank the over 600 people we had here. Honestly, the way the growth of the channel has been nothing short of amazing, and that's thanks to you. We are here because you allow us to be here 5 days a week. You tune in, you get into the comment section. Obviously, there was some small changes made to the channel that obviously, with the visual aspect of it, we're trying to make this a more legit looking place to come and get your video game information on a daily basis. We hope that you're enjoying what we're doing. But of course, I'm gonna do the outros and then we'll get everyone out of here so you can start your Friday afternoon. Start first, of course, with our special guest Crispy Bomb Talk about it, brother. Where can people find you on other podcasts on a weekly basis? And more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Shout out to the chat. You gentlemen knocked it out of the park. Hope all is well with Dread. You know, send some prayers over there. At Chris Bomb on Twitter, Chris Bomb 28 Xbox Live. Find me on Retro Renegades Tuesday night, 7 p.m. We got Primetime Gaming, 7 p.m. Wednesday. And the next podcast, 8 p.m. Thursdays. We'll see you then.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate you being here as always. When you can be here on a Friday morning, especially when it's spicy. Today was, in fact, a very spicy conversation. Web Dave, sell your brand, brother. Talk about your incredible website. Talk about your incredible YouTube channel that is on its march to 1K. You also added a new live show with Retry that I'm going to be a guest on in a couple of weeks. Cannot wait for that. Obviously, the Gamers Council podcast Sundays. You've seen some pretty significant growth over the course of launching the show a couple of weeks ago. And more importantly, Dave, if people want to reach out to you on social media, how do they do that?
They don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm all shut down. No, I'm kidding, man. Thank you so much for having me on, Boom. I appreciate it more than you know. And I put the link in chat right there where they can get to our YouTube channel, and hopefully they'll subscribe. We really need to get our subscriber base up. We're getting there. We're on our way. We're at like 635.
Nice, dude.
But we're getting there. Little bits at a time. Man, we got a great show coming up on Saturday. We're gonna have Infinite Umbra and Daniel McGee. Both are going to be guesting with us.
Nice.
Talking about current gaming events, things that are going on in the gaming world with talking it over with the chat, because that's the way we like to roll, and also talking about their new channel that Umber is releasing, and it's going to be his new show, and him and Daniel are going to be doing it together. So we're going to get the inside scoop on that as well. So looking forward to it. Prayers go out to Dreadpool and his father, and hopefully everything is going to be okay. Hopefully he'll give us some update soon, so everybody keep that in mind today. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. And Boom, you got a couple of more chats that dropped in there too.
Let me oh wow, okay, let me just get to those real quick. Reggie Mobile 9, what's going on, Reggie? How you feeling, brother? Welcome back. He's been a channel member for 29 months. He says this has been an awesome show, Boom and panel. Appreciate the great show as always. Well, we appreciate you being here, brother, and of course thank you for the channel support. That's outrageous. And Jimbo Jangles, what's going on, brother? How are you and the fam? Hopefully everyone is doing well. He drops a very generous $20 super chat and says, happy Friday, Boom and crew. Just got the car cleaned up for the weekend. Yeah, I gotta do that. My car is filthy. Diablo beta is downloading. That's right, folks. Real quick, thank you for Jimbo Jangles on the super chat. But yes, if you pre-ordered Diablo 4 or you went to Taco Bell, because I know that Kia Walker actually got his code from not Taco Bell, KFC. He got his code from KFC. You can download the beta on top of everything you can play. The Resident Evil 4 Chainsaw demo. You have Exo Primal that's up. You have Civ 6 just launched into Game Pass. I don't know what you're going to do with yourself, but I know you're going to be playing games. So yeah, go download the beta. Mrs. Boom and I are going to hold off. We're not going to play the beta. We're in the midst of playing. We're running through. We ran through not Diablo, Baldur's Gate 2 3 times, and now we're running through Baldur's Gate 1 because those games are phenomenal, and not the ones on PC. I'm talking about the OG Interplay ones. Those are what we like. He also goes, March Madness is in full swing. Yeah, there's been a lot of upset so far. Like, holy cow. Like, I'm really shocked. Some people got knocked off. And he says, and I spent my morning with you guys. Well, thanks so much for that, brother. Glad to have you. Hell of a weekend so far, and it's barely 10 a.m. here in Colorado. Well, brother, thank you so much for being here. And, of course, thank you for the generosity. Fuzzy, let's sell your brand, brother. Talk about it. Where could people check out your incredible YouTube content that is really based on racing, but you do give your opinion on certain things? Where can they subscribe to your channel? Because we want to get you past 1K. More importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Well, one of the first, thank you for having me on, and also thoughts and prayers for Dreadpool. Hopefully,
Indeed.
everything pulls his dad pulls through and whatnot. But man, it was awesome being here with you guys. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for interacting with us, and everybody that's watched us live or will catch us on replay. For those that want to hear my rambles, rants, or anything racing related as far as gaming, just follow me on Twitter and on YouTube at fuzzy_Belvedere. I'll more than likely do a brief summary on like the time progression for Forza Motorsport that I'm looking forward to, hopefully
Nice.
later on this year. Doing a video sometime later this evening. But thank you so much for having me on. Look forward to being here Monday on Xbox Lunch Break Special with you and Dave and Crazy Lou. And man, everybody have a great weekend. Game, have fun. Be with family, and enjoy this time right now, because it's amazing as a gaming enthusiast right now what we're able to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to get excited about, regardless of what console you enjoy best or own. Even if you only own one of the three, there's going to be so many games coming out. First party, third party, second party, indie. You just enjoy gaming wherever you want to enjoy gaming. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, I'm going to close out the show after thanking the super chats and channel memberships once again with a message that my dad taught us when we were very young. And I think it made me the man that I am today. And he used to say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.